Hey, I'm Chris, and I'm writing a fictional podcast on staring at the Asian diaspora generational divide. And this is my video journal on the languages we tell stories in.
Some things happened 17.
I have a sick fixation with language. Not in the sense that I love the English language or, every single time I see its awkwardly placed curves and funny sentence structures, I'm like, oh, it's a surprise. But fixated in the sense that within the folds of those 26 letters, I can find and take part in other people's worlds, in other people's stories. So growing up, I ran into this superpower almost every day, but I never realized it. I could transport my consciousness directly into that of another, and I never realized that that's what it was, a superpower, because at that time, I was always running away from my own world. I was leaping from my world of dull, bland, and plain problem sets and piano practice into a colorful world of adventure. There's fantasy and science fiction and realistic fiction. They're all fantastical, but to me, they were all real fiction. I had a sick fixation with language. At some point, maybe it was because of time or society or something about me not having any other places to run to. I felt that I had to go find a place, a world, an experience of my own. I had a sick fixation with language. Sick because the world I grew up in measured my worth based on what I could scrawl on line to line, left to right in 12-point Times New Roman. And sick because I'd found so much comfort in those 26 bent and broken little letters. And sick because they made me claustrophobic. And sick because I had been taught that the answers were in the back of the book, but when I went out to look for them for my own story, they weren't there. The funniest part is that I'd always known that. If I had clearly looked at the world as I had experienced it, I would have known that it had always been bigger than the language that I was taught by society. Maybe the closest things are always the hardest to look at. The obvious thing that had always been staring me in my face, in terms of where the walls of languages stopped and ended, was with my family. There have always been things my family has struggled to capture in English, not to mention things that can't even be expressed in any language. How could I share that I can't wait to eat this dish of braised wheat gluten with black wood ear mushrooms? Like, what even is that? What is that? There's no tenderness. There's no heart. There's no soul. There's no stomach. And there's no generation upon generation of parents telling their children, 多吃点, and telling you to your face that, yes, 你长胖了. And of course, 吃饭了吗? All you need to know is, 吃饭了吗? So maybe even more than when we have the words or the language to express the things that we know, we should look to when there are no words left. Because when there are no more words left, that's how I know that I am trusted, that I am on some path, going who knows where, but I know that I am experiencing life. And there are no more words left. If our feelings are what we have left when we wake up from a dream, then maybe language is what we have left when we wake up from experiencing the world. It's a projection of just what we can put on a simple piece of paper. The truth is, when we tell our stories, the language we choose will never be enough. It was never enough. And to me, that's a bit freeing. When I try to find my own world, my own place, my own story, those 26 bent and broken letters, and maybe 50,000 more, I don't need to find myself in them. Because I won't. I mean, hey, I don't even know if this makes any sense. So why do I even try? I try because I have a sick fixation on languages. The way that they can transport my consciousness directly into that of another. The way that there are 26 characters and 50,000 more that sometimes when I see them, when I hear them, when I say them, I can say, yes, I get it. I get it. So the languages we use when we tell stories, they make me believe that somehow I've captured something of the infinite dimensions of what is experience. And they make me believe that it has meaning, that it makes sense, and that I can trust myself, and that maybe it was worth it. And so, with that said, my world is my story, and I want to take responsibility for it. I want to take responsibility so that my world, my experience, can choose the languages that it needs to tell the story that it has, and not for the languages that I have to tell me the story that I don't. And so, for my story, with or without words, with or without languages, when I find it, I'd like to share that with you.